In a sleek, modern Los Angeles studio bathed in warm lighting, Clint Eastwood and Robert De Niro sat across from each other on plush leather couches, their faces etched with the weight of decades in Hollywood. Their eyes sharp despite the years, each man a legend in his own right, their presence alone enough to make the audience lean forward in their seats, sensing something monumental brewing beneath the surface, a promise of raw, unfiltered truth that would unravel before the night was over, though no one could predict how. The host, a polished young man with a practiced smile, kicked off the interview with safe questions about their careers, their morning routines, the kind of small talk that felt like a warm-up for something bigger, something unspoken that hung in the air like static before a storm. Clint, his voice low and gravelly, leaned back, his cowboy squint still intact at 95, and asked De Niro, "Bob, how the hell do you keep looking like you're still in your prime?" De Niro, 82, chuckled, his signature smirk flickering as he shot back, "Clean living and a good barber, Clint. Something you might want to try." The audience laughed, the tension easing for a moment, but there was an edge to their banter, a sharpness that hinted at deeper currents, a rivalry or respect or something more complicated that neither man would admit outright. And you could feel the room waiting for it to surface, knowing this wasn't just another nostalgic celebrity chat. The host, sensing the chemistry, pivoted to a question designed to stir the pot. "Gentlemen, let's get real. Who shaped American cinema more? Taxi Driver or Gran Torino?" The crowd murmured, sensing the trap. And Clint's jaw tightened, his fingers drumming lightly on the armrest, while De Niro's eyes narrowed, his smile fading just enough to notice. Clint spoke first, his tone measured but firm. "Gran Torino told it straight. Real people, real struggles, no frills. You don't need to overcomplicate it to make a point." De Niro tilted his head, his voice calm but cutting. "Taxi Driver dug into the mess of the human soul, Clint. It's not about flash, it's about truth, the kind that makes you squirm." The audience clapped for both, but the air grew heavier, the two men locking eyes, not with anger yet, but with a challenge, each unwilling to yield the crown of cinematic legacy, their egos brushing against each other like flint on steel. The host, grinning nervously, tried to steer back to lighter ground, but Clint, never one to back down, leaned forward, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "Bob, don't you ever get tired of railing against Trump in every damn interview? It's starting to feel like a script you can't put down." The crowd gasped softly, and De Niro's face hardened, his fingers curling into his palms, but he kept his cool, replying, "I say what I feel, Clint. You don't have to agree, but at least I'm not sitting on the fence worried about losing half my fans." Clint's eyes flashed, his lips parting to retort, but the host jumped in, laughing too loudly, promising the audience, "Stick around. This is just getting started, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's next." The tension hung unresolved, a spark waiting to ignite, and as the cameras panned across the two icons, you could sense the weight of their words, the years of unspoken rivalry, and the promise of something raw and unscripted yet to come, something that would leave the audience stunned, questioning not just the men on stage, but themselves. Clint, his weathered hands gripping the armrest, leaned forward, his eyes locked on De Niro, and said, "Bob, don't you ever get tired of preaching in every interview, turning politics into a circus? It's like you're auditioning for a pundit gig instead of acting." The crowd inhaled sharply, a few murmurs rippling through the room, and De Niro's jaw tightened, his fingers twitching as if resisting the urge to point. He leaned in, his voice low but laced with steel. "I speak my mind, Clint. You used to do that in your films. Say something real. Or are you too busy playing it safe now, worried about alienating your Republican fans?" The accusation landed like a punch, and Clint's face flushed, his lips pressing into a thin line, the kind of look that once silenced outlaws on screen but now betrayed a flicker of vulnerability, a man not used to being called out so directly. The host, sweat beading on his forehead, tried to diffuse the moment with a forced chuckle, pivoting to a safer topic about their latest projects. But the damage was done. The room buzzed with anticipation, every eye darting between the two legends, waiting for the next spark. Clint, undeterred, shifted in his seat, his voice cutting through the host's nervous chatter. "Today's films, they're soft, Bob. No guts. Just a bunch of whining heroes crying every 10 minutes, afraid to stand for anything. You telling me that's progress? The audience clapped, some nodding in agreement, but De Niro's eyes darkened, his response sharp and deliberate. Real courage isn't hiding behind a tough guy act, Clint. It's owning your pain, showing it, not waving a revolver to feel like a man. The crowd gasped, the jab landing hard, and Clint's fingers dug into the couch, his voice dropping to a near growl. Careful, Bob. You're starting to sound like you're defending every woke script that comes out of Hollywood. De Niro's face reddened, his calm cracking as he shot back. And you're stuck in the 70s, acting like stoicism is the only way to be a man. Maybe you're just mad your kind of hero doesn't sell anymore. The audience erupted in a mix of cheers and boos, the tension now a living thing, coiling tighter with every word. The host, desperate to regain control, raised his hands, pleading, "Gentlemen, let's keep it civil. This is why we're here, for real talk." But his voice was drowned out by the crowd's energy, their phones already lighting up with clips of the exchange. Then Clint, his eyes narrowing, went for the jugular. Maybe you're just protective of your daughter's choices, Bob. All that noise about identity sounds personal. The room fell silent, a collective intake of breath, as De Niro's hand froze mid-gesture, his face a mask of fury, his voice low and venomous. You don't get to bring my family into this, Clint. You want to talk tough? Pick a fight you can handle. The crowd was on edge, some whispering, others leaning forward, phones forgotten, caught in the raw, human spectacle of two titans tearing into each other, not with fists, but with words that cut deeper. Clint didn't back down, his voice steady but biting. I'm just saying what people think, Bob. You're out here preaching, but you dodge the hard questions about your own house. De Niro's chair creaked as he leaned forward, his eyes blazing, and for a moment it seemed he might stand, but he stayed seated, his voice icy. You want to talk about dodging? How about you never saying a damn thing about the mess this country's in? Too scared to lose your Heartland fans? The host, now visibly panicked, jumped in. Okay, let's take a quick break. Trust me, folks, you're not going to want to miss what happens next. The cameras cut to commercial, but the tension lingered. A storm paused but not dissipated. The audience left hanging, their emotions a tangle of shock, anger, and fascination, knowing that whatever came next would be unforgettable, a moment that would redefine how they saw these two men, not as icons but as flawed, fierce humans wrestling with their legacies in real time. The commercial break did nothing to cool the scalding tension in the Los Angeles studio, where Clint Eastwood and Robert De Niro sat, their postures rigid, eyes avoiding each other but burning with the residue of their clash, the audience buzzing with a mix of unease and exhilaration, phones still glowing with half-recorded clips, everyone sensing the show was careening toward a breaking point that would sear itself into memory, a moment too raw to look away from. As the cameras rolled again, the host, his voice strained with forced enthusiasm, tried to pivot to a neutral question about their favorite roles, but De Niro cut him off, his voice low and jagged. I'm not here to play nice, Clint. You crossed a line bringing my family into this. The crowd hushed, the air tightening, and Clint's eyes flicked up, his face unyielding but his fingers twitching, betraying a flicker of regret or defiance. I said what I said, Bob, Clint replied, his tone steady but cold. You can't keep hiding behind your causes and not expect pushback. De Niro's laugh was sharp, humorless, his hands slamming down on the armrest as he leaned forward. Hiding. I'm out here every day, saying what I believe, while you're out there playing the strong, silent type, dodging anything that might cost you a fan. That's not courage. That's calculation. The audience erupted, some cheering, others booing, the room splitting into factions as the host floundered, his pleas for calm drowned out by the chaos. Clint's jaw clenched, his voice dropping to a growl. You think you're the only one who's real? I've been telling stories that cut to the bone since before you were a name, Bob. You don't get to lecture me on courage. De Niro shot to his feet, his face flushed, his voice rising to a controlled roar. Enough of this circus. I don't need to sit here and take cheap shots from a guy who thinks he's above it all. The crowd gasped as he tore off his mic, tossing it onto the couch, and stormed off the set, his footsteps echoing in the stunned silence, leaving the host stammering and Clint staring at the empty space, his expression unreadable, part fury, part something softer. something like loss. The cameras lingered, capturing the void where De Niro had been. The audience frozen, some whispering, others still processing the eruption. The weight of two giants unraveling in public too heavy to dismiss. The host, scrambling, announced a wrap, promising more to come, but the show felt over. The energy drained yet electric, the audience left grappling with what they'd witnessed. A clash not just of egos, but of worlds, of truths, of men who'd shaped their lives through screens now exposed as painfully human. As the studio lights dimmed and the crowd filed out, Clint remained seated, his hands folded, staring at the floor. While backstage, De Niro paused by a water cooler, his breathing heavy, his face a mask of rage and something deeper. Hurt, perhaps, or doubt. Then, in a quiet corner away from the crew, De Niro approached Clint, his voice low, almost conspiratorial. "Nice work out there, Clint. Think they bought it?" Clint's eyes met his, a faint smirk breaking through. "Not a chance, Bob. They're too busy picking sides." They shared a glance, a flicker of understanding passing between them, two old pros who'd played their parts to perfection, leaving the world to wonder what was real and what was performance. The truth hanging in the air like smoke, unresolved, inviting questions that might never be answered. The audience left to wrestle with their own emotions, anger, awe, or something in between, as the curtain fell on a moment that felt too big to end.